Maybe you shouldn't put this podcast out for a year and then make sure everything's in place for us three, and then we'll put it out, just in case it's too good to...
If you need somebody to consult you as you figure out how to consult other people, my rates are low.
Friendly rates.
We're supposed to share everything for free, damn it. Okay.
No matter in which business you are, if you're a dentist, an accountant, if you're a consultant, if you're in a small business or a big business, video as a tool and as an instrument is more and more important. We're each day consuming more and more video, and video is a very effective way to communicate with customers and clients. So in this conversation, we invited Alex Gollner, or as he is known in the internet as Alex 4D, to have a conversation about video literacy. So if you don't know anything about video, or if you do, this is the type of conversation that will be very helpful for you. So let's go to the intro and talk to Alex. I'm back, Gabriel, after 1 week off. That was so difficult to reach me because I decided to take my own advice of work-life balance, and I took vacation and I said, no work, a whole week, no work. And that's all I've been up to for this past week that we barely spoke. How have you been?
I've been unable to get a hold of you, but that's all right. I haven't taken a vacation for probably 10 years. And I'm busier than I've ever been, so I'm not used to kind of shutting the doors and shutting off all communication. So I was pestering you a bit in the beginning, but then I quickly realized, no, leave the guy alone. He's on a beach somewhere, shirtless with a bunch of women.
Yeah.
Let him do that thing, and I'll be here with my Mac.
Now, on the positive side for other people, we have actually a very special guest today, which is Alex Gollner, or like a lot of other people will know him as Alex 4D. I don't know if he already phased out the Alex 4D name, or if it is already still a used marketing term. Alex, how are you?
I'm absolutely fine. Thanks so much for inviting me. Yes, I am still Alex 4D. I say I'm Alex Gollner, but known as Alex 4D on the internet. It's partially an identity, so I remember that I'm talking about editing stuff, so that people are not interested in the other Alex. They're interested in the Alex 4D. So that's why it's that.
So the Alex Gollner is the one that goes for drinks, and the Alex 4D is the one that talks about editing and plugins and stuff.
Exactly. So I know that people follow the Alex 4D. They don't want to hear about what I think about politics or about the latest celebrity naughtiness or stuff like that. And actually, the other Alex Gollner is not interested in that either. But it's helped me remind myself of the separate identities that I have.
Alex, can you give us a little, kind of a brief synopsis of where you're at and what you've been doing, just for the viewers who don't know who you are yet?
Hi, I'm Alex Gollner. I've been using Final Cut Pro since 2003, 2004, and I felt like I was kind of a bit behind. I had been editing videos. Well, I've been doing motion graphics in After Effects, and then a client said, could you edit a video? So I did it in After Effects, and it had 175 layers, because that's the actual software that I knew how to use. And I thought, maybe I'm using the wrong tool or not using it the right way. I mean, I could do it quite fast because I was good at motion graphics. So I learned Final Cut Pro 4.5 HD or Final Cut Pro HD, I think it was called in those days, and then 6 and 7. But I started making free plugins about 10 or 12 years ago. And I love doing it because there's nothing between me and my audience, because as you know, as editors, having people between you and the audience is, it's good and bad, because obviously you're collaborating people, and part of what we do is collaborate. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, it's really nice to know I have an idea for a plugin in the morning, I do it in the afternoon, and then the next day I've write up the web page, which actually takes the most time, and then suddenly people can start using it. So it's a great feeling. And then when Final Cut Pro 10 came along, I suddenly thought, I'm going to help people deal with the transition by making a few quick plugins that help people move on and actually try it out without complaining quite so much. And then, I've been building up my Alex 4D plugin stuff since then. And then 2015, I made some some paid plugins on FX Factory, which are animation transitions. And earlier this year, 360-degree video plugins. So I'm known as Alex 4D on the internet, Alex Gollner.
Well, and I'm pretty sure that your plugins still help a lot of people out there that are onboarding to Final Cut or they're still transitioning to Final Cut. And almost every single day I see something on Facebook or Twitter asking, oh, how do I do that? And everyone is referencing, go to Alex for this website. He has a plugin for that for sure.
Thank you. No, it's a great feeling. You know, if connecting to an audience and not having anything between you and them is a great feeling. So I guess this is what you're doing. This is what this podcast and YouTube video series is about, is connecting directly without any other people in the way. It's a great feeling.
Yeah,
it sure is.
And we're pretty independent about our opinions, which which we have to remind people all the time that a lot of the things that we talk here are opinions.
If all we're doing is spitting out facts and information, the viewer might as well just be reading a PDF or an instruction manual. If there's no personality, if there's no opinion, what's the point of watching the show then?
Sure. Really? I mean, that's the thing. Obviously, podcasts are great, so you can hear the emotion come through on the podcast, but also you might want to look into our beautiful eyes. Sorry, sorry. That's one of the other Alex characters. It isn't Alex 4D. I suddenly realized that. So yeah, it's actually seeing that we really believe it. Because the thing is, as video makers, funny enough, what people say is such a small percentage of what we capture on screen. It's actually, does that guy or girl really believe what they're saying? And then if you look right into their eyes, that's hopefully the take you capture if they are believing what they're supposed to believe. Because of some corporate videos, actually, no, they don't believe this at all. So how do you hide that?
Well, normally it's very difficult to hide that, mainly when they are reading from a prompter and you see their eyes tracking left to right.
So I kind of, I should do more video. I've got a reasonable number of YouTube videos explaining how my plugins work, but I aim to maybe make some more videos and explain stuff like that in the future.
This connects really well with the next topic, or our first topic, which is the role of companies, or anyone for that matter, in education. And in our case, because we talk about video and post-production, what is the role that we take and that big companies that create big softwares that are used by professionals have to take or are taking in order to move forward video literacy? I know that you have a lot of opinions about that. I know that Gabriel has a lot of opinions about that. I have a lot of opinions about that. But let's start with Alex.
Well, can we start by defining what we mean by video literacy, and then we'll move on from there.
So, Gabriel, what do you think?
Well, you just really extrapolate that from text literacy. It seems to me that now more than ever, people are consuming video content, and that is a primary means through which we consume information. And if we are not all able to understand what goes into that, we're not as video literate as we could be, or rather, we're not as able to understand and manipulate a popular form of communication. I guess in a nutshell, that's what it is for me.
I think a little bit about the definition about being literate, being able to read and write, and being able to produce, create, and finish a video the same way that we are able to write words, sentences in a text and deliver that. I see video literacy a little bit that way. And if you know how video comes to be, you are less likely to be manipulated by the media, by the medium that is being used by the media. Let's say someone shows a video of a lot of people running and the headline says an assassin is coming after them. You might as well be manipulated by that, because that is just a Black Friday queue of people getting to the supermarket. So people need to understand that video is produced in a certain way, is edited in a certain way, is added with voiceovers or someone telling a story, and all of that makes a story, and people can get manipulated by that the same way that a book can manipulate people, like an auto-help book or whatever, or even a fiction.
Well, yeah, I think that follows on from a way into, we had text literacy for many, many, many years, because people could write by hand, and they could write text by hand, and they could read books which they could buy. And then in the first part of the 20th century, they made books a lot cheaper. They became, instead of the cost of a week's salary, they became an hour's salary or something like that when they were popularized as paperbacks. Then I think in the 80s, we started getting picture literacy. In other words, the fact of how we can create pictures and manipulate them. And then so Mac Paint came along in 1984 for the Mac in 1984, and then Super Paint, and then Deluxe Paint, and then weirdly enough, Photoshop was just another paint app when it came out in 1989 or 91, I can't remember when, but it was a long time ago. But in the 90s, picture literacy came along, because then I don't even know, Adobe won that battle between the 18 different graphics apps on picture graphics apps on the Mac and then the PC, because it was just the best one. But weirdly enough, Photoshop then started becoming a thing that normal people have heard of. It's like, that picture's been photoshopped. Oh, could you just Photoshop that for me? Oh, wow, look at that. Oh, that's obviously been photoshopped. So people became picture literate, even though this kind of stuff had been going on for many years before, and it became from a verb to Photoshop. So it's interesting that not long after Photoshop comes out, Adobe Premiere comes out. Now, obviously, there was Avid One and Media Composer and stuff before that, but Adobe Premiere really popularized this thing. And there's been, over 25 years of Adobe Premiere, and yet, for some reason, video literacy, to premiere something, that never happened. That wasn't shared with the world. You could say that picture literacy, another kind of picture literacy, was the presentation, the slideshow. Can you just do it in PowerPoint? Can you send me a PowerPoint? Can I have a PowerPoint? That's because people didn't actually want to write reports. Why write a report when I could just put a few pictures together, one after the other, and press the button? Mm-hmm. So this is kind of business people being a bit lazy. But so these are apps that people don't even know what they look like. They've never used them before. They don't know how they run. They've just heard of them. Can you send me a PowerPoint? Could you Photoshop it for me? That kind of stuff. But video literacy hasn't actually happened to that extent. People have heard of iMovie, but nobody says, hey, that you just did that in iMovie. Oh, could you send me an iMovie? That kind of thing. So nobody has actually managed to get video literacy to the extent where it becomes part of bar talk or dinner party conversation, which Photoshop definitely, and PowerPoint a little bit, has actually become. So there's an opportunity there. And I think that's the kind of thing that's much more Apple's raison d'etre. Raison d'etre? I don't know. It's Apple's thing, is to change the world. And I think to change the world of 0.1% of the people using editing software to make TV programs is not as appealing to them as changing the world so lots of people are able to change their world by making videos or telling the stories through video. And that's the kind of thing, I think, that, I think lots of companies, Adobe would like that, but they don't seem to have, I think, chasing after the professionals has made it so it's really unlikely that a normal person working in business or working in a shop or trying to get something done will say, I know what I'll do. I'll make a video. It's so straightforward. I have the tools right here. It comes free with the other tools that I have. So Microsoft didn't manage it, Adobe didn't manage it, and Apple so far haven't managed it yet. But I think it's about time somebody got excited about it.
I was just going to say, I don't think anybody opens up an Adobe app and thinks, well, this is so easy and straightforward. That's just not the way the apps are designed. Even, I've been doing this for at least 10 years, and all the Adobe apps are far more complicated to me than opening up Final Cut Pro 10 by comparison. And especially, we know already people who are new to editing seem to glom onto Final Cut 10 quicker than track-based editing programs. Of course, the opposite is true if you've already been trained in track-based and you have to unlearn habits to get into Final Cut. So I'm not saying anything special about Final Cut, but just I don't think I think you're right, Alex, in that Adobe has very much targeted the professional. And look at all these advanced features and all these new panels and buttons everywhere. And I think that's a turnoff to people who are if you first open After Effects, it looks like NASA controller. I mean, it's overwhelming. So just in terms of a design aesthetic, I think Apple has a leg up on them as far as an opportunity to reach more people with a more friendly experience.
Accessibility and reaching more people, I would say that probably Apple has a bigger advantage over any other software manufacturer out there, just for the fact of the iPhone. So for example, I have a sister, she's 16 years old, and the other day, no, this was like already 2 years ago, when she was 14, she got an assignment from work, which was to create a movie about whatever it was that they were learning there. And I remember her texting me, and she was like, the teacher told us to make a movie, and he said that we can just use iMovie if we have iPhones. And I was like, yeah, that's true. You just use your camera app, go there and make videos, and then on iMovie you start dropping things, and you start doing your cuts right there. And the teacher didn't want a professional Hollywood cut. He wanted people to know how to tell a story, the same way that you write paragraphs on a text. Fast forward that, and so they did stop motion as well, and then she was like, how do I do that? I was like, oh, that's a little bit more complicated, but this is more or less how it goes. And then they found an app that it would pretty much do automatically and say, okay, move now, and it would be taking the picture for you. The only thing that you needed to do is make sure that you put the iPhone in a place that is stable. And they actually had one of those tools that have a hole in the middle, and they put the phone on top of this tool with the camera pointed down on a table, and that's how they were doing the animation, the stop motion. So actually there is, not saying that company that created the application for stop motion or Apple with iMovie did that because of video literacy, but the fact that is accessible in every single iPhone out there, that says a lot in terms of accessibility, being able to work with that. The same thing that you have Pages, Keynote, Numbers, iMovie, GarageBand. Look at how many applications that people have available to them just for the fact that they own an iPhone. Of course, iPhones are not cheap, but they're pretty much ubiquitous nowadays. So I think that says a little bit of where things are going.
The iPhone itself gives you a video camera and a photography camera, more than even texting or messaging or social media. These are the new. I mean, we had cell phones, we had pagers, and those go back a ways. But the idea that everybody's carrying around a video camera with them, that's pretty new. And so if that becomes an intimate experience where you're always, well, they're always holding it vertically, but so they're filming each other and filming themselves, that's getting more ingrained in their consciousness just as a tool. Now, whether they embrace that and take it further and do it, craft it, is another question. And that's where somebody like Apple or maybe somebody else could step in and help foster that and nurture that.
Okay, should they? I mean, no. My question is like, should these companies actively go there and say, let's make people learn this or that video, let's say? Should they do that? And why?
I think what the companies are doing is giving people more colors to paint with.
Sure.
So at the moment they have black and white is text, and then you add a couple more colors, then that's still pictures, and then a couple more colors is pictures all in a row, and then it gives people a chance to just have a wider range of tools to choose from. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not wasting anybody's time. It's just that as some people have access to more advanced tools, then people just need more friendly, open tools. I mean, I think companies should be doing that. I think, certainly Microsoft benefited from the fact that they had a spreadsheet. They had their version of Multiplan, if you really want to go far back, the inventions of the spreadsheet. And then they had word processing program. And they go, okay, what else have we got? Well, we've got a database and we've got PowerPoint. Now, Apple don't market iMovie as part of the iWork suite. They don't consider it to do with work. Should there be
because it was part of the iLife suite?
It was. But the question is, what isn't it to do with work?
Yeah, it was iWeb, iPhoto,
yeah,
iMovie, Was there any other? iTunes, I think it was iLife. No.
Was it Keynote maybe something like that?
Keynote pages and numbers were part of iWork.
Okay.
And iLife. So I remember one of the keynotes, Steve Jobs saying, "Here it is how you work on a Mac: pages, keynotes, and so on. And here is how you live, like how you have pleasure on a Mac with your photos, with the music, with your videos. And now you can create your home movies here." So I remember still FireWire 800 and 400, you would have your mini DV and etc. You could import also in one of the newer versions of iMovie at that time. It was easy. I've done commercial work in the very beginning of my career. I already had Final Cut, but it was so easier to do on iMovie because it was a simple job that I did on iMovie. I didn't need to go through the complication of Final Cut.
I say it shouldn't be movies be used in the same way as presentations or be created and edited like presentations. Now, not everybody uses presentations, but some people do. And sometimes people use spreadsheets just if you do a few calculations, and sometimes they use spreadsheets to make presentations, do complicated things, to get something done. You know, if work is about getting something done to achieve something that's not to do with leisure or not to do with individual self-expression, like to organize a charity or to help with your church or something like that, then it's not work, you're not being paid, but you could say that's what, you know, numbers can be used for, or what Keynote can be used for. So, I mean, the thing about Photoshop, weirdly enough, I think Photoshop was successful because it was so friendly and unthreatening. Because when you used Super Paint and when you used these other paint programs in 1992, 93, they all had their complexity right in front of you because they wanted to be impressive. Whereas Photoshop is like, let's hide all the complexity because it is quite threatening and weird and strange. And even today, I don't use the current version of Photoshop, but the one from 10 years ago, it certainly had a lot of power, but it didn't have its user interface in the way. And weirdly enough, I think Adobe, for example, they've got two parts. They've got their Creative Cloud, and then they've got their Marketing Cloud. Now, the crazy thing about the Marketing Cloud is they're selling to people who work in business. They're selling to people who work at design companies, at people who need marketing departments of multinational corporations, or marketing departments or communication departments of charities or architects and stuff like that. So you can bet the Adobe Marketing Cloud is saying to the Creative Cloud people, we have all these clients, can you just make it possible for us to sell all this stuff to people? And the interesting thing is that finally it seems that one part of Adobe is winning the argument, because now, of course, they've got a new app that's coming out, which we may deride as being essentially a copy of iMovie, but that doesn't matter. It's much more Adobe have now got the opportunity to go for that video literacy, to say stuff like, this works on your iPhone, it works on your Android phone, it works on your Mac, it works on your PC, video in the cloud. Now, the people who are going to be using this don't know how hard that is. They just see a fun thing they can get stuff done with. So I think that's very interesting.
I guess we never think how much effort goes behind writing those applications, really. We're just waiting for the release date that was announced and then saying, whoa, release date, you guys it's not there. Where can I get it? Oh, you're failing, you're so behind, oh, you're dying now. Yeah, the company is totally going bankrupt. And that's how people think, right? And then the software is released and there is a bug, and then suddenly the company is like, they don't know how to write software anymore, and etc. And I'm saying that because we do that for Apple, we do that for Adobe, we do that for Google, we do that for everyone. We have this extremely high expectations on code. But before we go into code, a little bit more about literacy, because I think I asked, should the companies push for video literacy? I'm not 100% sure if the company that makes the tools, the cameras, the software are the ones that should push for literacy. I think the ones that should push for literacy should be schools, universities, and first of all, most of all, ourselves. I mean,
Why not all of them?
Humans hate to learn for whatever reason, or some humans hate to learn. I don't know why. I love learning. So why is it so difficult to learn? Why is it so difficult to learn something new? To learn something better, a better way of doing it. I mean, if you're gonna do a coffee, people love coffee, right? And then suddenly someone tells you, oh my God, there is this way of making a coffee that's gonna make your coffee so much better. And a lot of people are gonna do it, right? They're gonna try. They're not gonna say, oh no, I've been drinking my coffee for 50 years. It tastes just fine. That's the way I like it. I mean, if it can taste better, you will try. If a burger tastes better, you will try, right? Why can't we do the same with learning, with information?
Well, video literacy is not like a new kind of, it's not like a new kind of text literacy. It's a different kind of thing. It's a bit like saying, hey, you like coffee? Would you like to try beer? Some people have never had beer before and don't even know what alcohol is. Okay? So what happens is, well, I know I need to have coffee every morning to get going. Well, what is this beer thing? Do I drink it in the morning with my breakfast? No.
Just to be clear, we're saying to drink beer in the morning to get us going.
So that's the point, you see. So the thing is that you can say this is a thing that's a bit like what you're doing already, but it's slightly different. But there's enough difference between beer and coffee, and they have different functions, right? So alcohol, one of the functions of alcohol-based drinks is to actually help social interaction and help people loosen up and also to be with their friends and also to be a different version of themselves. So, one of the bits. It's just my interpretation, right? Now, they're both drinks. One's cold and one's hot, or maybe actually coffee can be cold as well. So the thing is, it is hard to get to people to realize what video can do for them.
Well, I think if you go from not knowing video at all to knowing video, yeah, I agree, from coffee to beer. But if you know video, there is a new way of doing video, for example, I'm pretty sure, at least I still remain thinking that it's a nicer tasting coffee.
That's also somewhat subjective, though, whether it's nicer tasting or not.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, for some people, more bitter is tastier. For others, sweeter is tastier, right?
But say, Felipe, who's this audience? Is it somebody who works a receptionist at a dentist who needs to kind of make a video that's going to go on the website with news from the dentist? Is it who are you talking about? Or is it, in other words, let's say video literacy, or literacy is both for while you're learning it and also what you ultimately might be doing it on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
Who are you talking about?
I think there are two people, and I can just say like one is the professional, and I will only say professional as the person that already knows video. Okay, not necessarily someone that lives from video, that does it for work or anything like that. I will just for this explanation, I will say professional is the one that already knows. I think the video literacy subject that needs to be approached is the person that doesn't know anything about video. Is the person that, like you said, this receptionist that sometimes only know how to turn on the computer and go to the applications that she needs for her work. In the past, people used to go to courses to learn how to operate computers. And at some point, working with Microsoft Word, Excel, Access, and stuff was a requirement. You would need to go to a course to learn. At some point, it became so common for people to have computers at home that knowledge was already expected for you to know. You didn't need to go to a course anymore. And then we started progressing to the age of iPads and iPhones, that people don't have computers at home anymore. They have only their iPhones, their iPads. Suddenly, working on Word, Excel, Access is also not common anymore. So they get to work and they, again, are in the point that they learning just those specific things. And I think that video has to be one of those things where Word, Excel, and Access were in the past when computers were ubiquitous in people's houses. Something that you just know. You just know how to plug in your phone there, import your video, put them together, and create a video. I think that's where what literacy means for me. That, for example, a receptionist, like you said, suddenly they say, "Hey, Anna, we need We're gonna have next week a party for all employees here in the company. No one has time to do it. Can you do a little video just to promote that little party that we're gonna have for next week? And it's just gonna be an internal video. And
yeah, she should be able to jump into iMovie or Adobe's Project Rush and kick that out as quickly as she can do that in PowerPoint or Word right now.
Even on Movie Maker, on Windows Movie Maker.
Sure, yeah. The individual software would be irrelevant, I think, at that point. But I think nowadays, at least in the developed countries, people are consuming more video content than they are actually reading newspapers, say. So I think even the non-professional is intuitively much more aware of video content than we might at face value give them credit for. They might not have studied it actively, consciously, but they've been consuming it over and over and over again. And once you start to awaken them to certain terms and principles that go into video making or filmmaking, I think it'll click much quicker. Because most people who started reading were never novelists. I mean, that's kind of backwards. But like, if you've watched 100,000 movies and a million TV shows and commercials, you've already been inundated with so much visual stimuli that you've already been trained in the background of your mind for the duration of your life. So I don't think anybody's starting from scratch with video literacy.
And who taught them? Who taught Microsoft Word, Excel access to those in the past? Who taught writing to those novelists? Who taught any of these skills? Were never the tool makers.
Well,
right? But I think that it's not Yamaha that makes saxophones or Selmer that makes saxophones that teaches a person how to play the saxophone. They're creating the saxophone to enable them to play, and the piano.
We've been reading for a long time, different parts of the world at different rates, but I mean, the written word itself hasn't really changed much. It was just the format for which we had access to it, from the written word to the printing press to word processing to computers. That container is kind of irrelevant. It's just still the written word. So once you learn how to do it, and once you learn how to type on one machine, you can type on any machine. There wasn't a relearning about the process of reading. Alex, you've got something I can see.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think what Felipe may be going towards, or what at least my answer to that question is, it used to be like in 30 years ago, in 1988, maybe 31 years ago, desktop publishing was the thing that changed graphic design. The laser printer came along, it cost $7,000 in 1985, and then eventually it cost like $1,200 in 1988. So suddenly it becomes incredibly reasonable. And that meant that people could jump into a new industry and then they could help graphic designers learn how to use computers. And then those people could be graphic designers and work with those people. And again, it happened 10 years later with Avid. Even if you'd edited movies for 20 years, it was the young person who had actually done or even older person who had done an Avid training course who suddenly became an assistant editor and jumped in at that stage. I think there is an opportunity for a slightly different thing with video literacy, in which the individual freelancer, the individual one-person band can actually set up a service to do the video literacy, to actually disseminate this in schools or businesses or anywhere. So what happens is, the idea is you have a conversation in which you have a name for this and we don't know what it is, in which somebody says, oh, so what do you do then? Oh, I go around and help businesses communicate through video literacy. Now, what that help is could be I just make the videos for them, to I inspire people who work in those businesses to make their own videos, or all that kind of stuff. So what happens is, this is what I was talking about Apple. Apple are going to be much more into helping hundreds of thousands of people create new business in which they help millions of people how to communicate more clearly through video than they're going to care about helping 20,000 people make feature films in Hollywood.
Gabriel is gonna say about bad video.
No. I follow what you're saying, Alex, about if I was to say shop my services around and help teach video literacy in one form, could be what I'm doing already, which is just creating content for them, or teaching them how to do the content themselves
as an educator,
which splits me completely, because one part of me just wants to share knowledge with the world free of charge, and we we can all be an enlightened species and all quit our jobs and just live in bliss. But the other part of me says, if I teach everybody how to do my job, I'm going to teach myself out of a job. And I think a lot of professionals feel threatened by the idea that everybody else can now do this. It's the same thing as, this camera that used to cost $100,000 is now $2,000. Yet we're still in business, so I realize that, I kind of already know the answer to what I'm saying, but it is a legitimate concern, I think.
I would agree. I would agree with that.
But there is an industry that is similar to what I'm describing, that already exists, in which people can be freelancers who help other people do work in business, but they can provide a monthly service doing it.
Consulting.
And that is the database. Hey, it's the dentist, right? We have a little database that our patients have, and there's an appointment coming up, and the database says, okay, here's the emails you're sending out to remind people 1 week in advance to confirm the appointment. And so they have a customized database. All the dentist ones are quite similar to each other, but sometimes they're customized because of the nature of the dentist, how many dentists there are, the nature of insurance in the country involved. So what happens is there's enough work to be done over the years and months. A person will be paid a retainer in order to make sure the database, all the stuff associated with the database is doable by the dentist, the doctor, the architect, the scientist, the lawyer, the consultant of any kind. And what happens is you don't mind spending, I don't know, $1,000 a month. It's not much, but you can help a lot of people. $1,000 a month. You can help you can be on the end of the phone. You can help people with their database. Now, Apple have a wholly owned subsidiary called FileMaker Pro.
Yes,
they already have this network. They have all these freelance database consultants. They have tool makers who make custom databases for certain industries. Apple have a conference, I'll call them Apple instead of FileMaker, in which members of Apple staff go to this conference, give presentations. They talk to people individually. They actually have forums online, Apple people talking to other people solving their problems. I wonder if we would benefit from that in the world of video. That might be quite a useful idea.
But it's the same thing as with consultants too, right? Because consultants, they are like, let's say, a financial consultant. A company hires them to say, hey, we think we are losing money here and we need to find a way to not lose that money anymore. And a consultant that his job is exactly the same as the financial people in that company, goes there and say, this is how you do your job. And then there are the consulting companies that do, this is how you do it and we can do it for you.
I mean,
and there are multi-million businesses out there that are set up like that. We could be one of those, not multi-million, but
I think that's absolutely fantastic. I kind of like the idea of being a video consultant. So the video consultant would be saying, when somebody says, I want to do stop motion for my new video for next week because I want to explain about this new service we can provide, and I think it'd be quite fun to do a stop motion video. Can you show me how the right app to add to stop video? Or if it's more advanced, they will say, oh, my workflow's not working at the moment because somebody's just brought a new camera in and I'm not quite sure how to deal with this codec. Now, there's two ways of dealing with that. You either teach the receptionist how to deal with codecs, or the consultant just goes, okay, no, I'll just install the right thing on the 7 computers required for it, and they just operate remotely. This is why, the reason why I'm thinking about all this is, if we want collaboration in Final Cut Pro 10, here's a really cool way of doing it. Making it so that freelance video consultants who work in businesses and organizations and charities and governments all over the world, they can go into people's systems and then they can go right to live timelines and then they can show people what's going on and they can manipulate them and they both have access to the same timeline.
And they don't have the media on their personal machine, which is a problem for a lot of businesses, right?
Yeah. So, or, obviously if part of what the video consultant is doing is setting up a video server like a jellyfish, depends on what kind of thing. If you're an architect, you probably use lots of video, but you need a video consultant who is an expert in working. So what they do is they use what is required to some extent, as well as a proper integrated to the timeline connected to Final Cut Pro / FileMaker as a database, a video database, because they're both databases and both should be able to deal with video, is that the integration is such that it works in terms of providing in iMovie, you can create, they have custom templates in order to make things like what I did on my holidays. Drop your text in here, clip in here. I imagine if consultants could do that for a law, so they here are all my law templates. You either buy them from FX Factory or you have some sort of, no, I want to make a custom law template for all our offices around the world, which will guide people to just drop all the footage in. So I'm not saying make Final Cut Pro 10 work for everybody. I'm saying use it whatever works. Have a thing that can have a tool that can be done on FileMaker or whatever tool you want, and then can make iMovie work as the right kind of tool for people at all sorts of levels of an organization. I think this will get the rest of Apple saying, hey, we could sell these people iMacs, we could do it on their iPhones, they could do it on their iPads. And the cool thing is that these people will have better business lives, better charity lives, better government lives, because they'll be achieving more with their technology. And also people supporting them as individuals or small companies or large companies will be changing the world too. So this seems much more Apple-y than saying CNN should switch over to Final Cut Pro, because that would be really, really cool.
Speaking of the business side of things, I think if we, with the proliferation of video literacy, I think, how do I say this? In the business world can be perceived as a pretty cold and removed and distant, and that's perpetuated by static ads or PowerPoint slides. But once these people are actually on camera, on video, more of your personality tends to get in there, and I think it could all kind of soften at least the image of business to a point and make it more personable and relatable to people. So I think incorporating a video into your business versus just yet another PowerPoint slideshow, apart from being a more powerful tool for communicating more ideas in a condensed amount of time, I think it actually allows some of the human element of your business to shine through more than other modes of communication. So I think that could be a nice benefit.
I mean, I've made videos about very boring things, but once you have somebody who really believes in them and they're really excited about it, and you can see it on their face, then people go, okay, he didn't say it totally correctly, but he really believed it, and he's excited about it, and he's honest about it. That's so much better than the fact he stumbled over his line or he said the wrong percentage. You can just put some graphics on there to fix it. That guy or gal or whoever is really... Then the people watching the video, they just go, I want to be on their team. I want to help them. I want to submit my invoices correctly. Something... if you talk to somebody about the fact that you have to make this video, people just go, oh my God, that's so sad. And you just go, no, this is actually really going to help people. You end up all looking at each other like Muppets and then go, this is all really good.
And this is what I used to do. I mean, my team in my previous job, we were outputting more than 400 videos a month. The company understood the importance of video literacy, actually, because they did push that internally for people to create their own videos. There were apps on their phones for them to create videos and put on the internal YouTube. So I think there are places that they recognize that they are moving away from sending emails with that huge text to actually sending a link to the video. Watch this video, and it's like a 1-minute clip. People actually watch, and there are comments below, and people are like, oh, I can even comment, which is what the internet loves doing, right?
No, I mean, I hope Adobe Marketing Cloud take Project Rush and they start selling it to all their clients, and Apple actually start getting some competition that matters to them. Because at the moment, Apple are not acting as if they have any competition. And, I'm not the most capitalist in the world, but competition sometimes can be quite good. And I think that might push Apple or Final Cut Pro, Motion Final Cut Pro clips to be that combination of things and getting third parties in and getting second parties and dealers. And because Apple don't act as if it's important to have a dealer, to have a Final Cut Pro dealer. Because, the Macs are the same price everywhere. Final Cut Pro is available from the website. Who needs an ongoing service contract with a dealer when it's going to all be done via the internet?
Volume license. For volume license, you need a dealer.
Exactly. But in practice, Apple don't seem to be interested in making sure these people have businesses. They just go, look, this is not a priority. We can't bend ourselves over backwards to change the price of make Final Cut Pro $25 more expensive because it's too cheap for dealers to actually recommend, because there's just the numbers don't work for them.
Well,
So,
I don't think being pro something means being against something else. So when you say they're not interested, I don't think it's necessarily the case. I mean, I can't say for them, but I try to put myself in the shoes of such a $1 trillion company, and it's not like, I don't think I would be thinking, how can I make small businesses thrive with my stuff? That's not even their business model. I think what they're thinking is, what can we do, like we, without depending on anyone else, besides creating an app environment, but that's something that can be improved for sure. What I want to say really is, just because they're not actively helping the small guy, it doesn't mean that they're against it. Of course, there are examples that you might use, like, oh, what about when a developer create a feature and then Apple goes there and implement it themselves? Yeah, you can see it both. You can see it two ways. You can either say Apple is like, oh no, we don't want this guy in business, so we're gonna do it ourselves, or they're gonna say, you know what? His idea is really good. We don't need any of his intellectual property because we have our own way that we can achieve that. And we're going to give that to everyone. So there are several ways that you can see that. And of course, we are all business owners, and Alex is more affected by that type of decision that Apple or any manufacturer can do in terms of software, because you produce plugins. So at any given time, Apple can just go there and say, oh, you know what? That transition that Alex created is really cool. Let's add here for free on Final Cut, like they did with the flow transition. I don't see it necessarily as an evil move. I see it more as a move like, this is really useful. It can be useful for people, and they can make it available for everyone with a software update.
I think for people we know who come up with ideas for movies or TV shows or novels or anything, it's very tempting to kind of pin all your hopes on that one idea, that one thing. Look, I can't tell you it, because if anyone had told my idea, they'd steal it from me and then I'll be lost. But if you're a creative person, you're an ideas making machine. So if somebody steals your idea, just have 10 more. Just be effective in delivering it faster and better than they can. It doesn't matter if somebody steals your idea. It'll make you really angry. But in the long run, what else can you do to just make the most of the fact that you have a relationship with people already because of the previous idea, and just have more? So Apple do that. They do kind of Sherlock things, which is named after the fact that they did that with Spotlight, because Sherlock was a third-party product. And then Apple produced a thing called, they Sherlocked it. They replaced it with the thing that eventually became Spotlight. So they could do that to me. Especially with the 360-degree video plugins that I created, would be very straightforward for the next version. Of just go, let's add some value. Let's add 20 effects, just like my 20 effects that do similar things. But they may do, they may not do. The trick is to have another 100 ideas ready, and then just make those as soon as you can. Because what I am is my relationship, the fact that I put things out there that people, they see why I do stuff. It's not necessarily what I do. It's kind of why I'm doing it that makes a difference. It's a bit like, I don't make a split screen transition effect, but there are lots of split screen plugins for Final Cut Pro 10, which is really cool. There was as you may remember, there were fads in which there was the 6 months of split screens, then there was the 6 months of film burns, and there was the 6 months of, common stuff. But the question is, well, do you go to Pixel Film Studios? Do you go to Ripple Trading? Who do you go to for these things? And the answer is, you go for the people who are doing it for the reasons that they're your reasons. Some people just think, hey, I'm the kind of person who fits into the vibe of what Pixel Film Studios is, and I know who they are, and I know what they can deliver for me, and they have delivered for me, so I'm going to go for Pixel Film Studios. Other people would say, no, I think FCPFX. They make a similar effect. Maybe it has more controls or less controls, but I buy into the emotional part of the story behind the story, why they're doing it. I feel I'm more like that kind of person, the BMW versus, what's the other one? Mercedes-Benz, I'm that kind of person. So in theory, hey, maybe there's some Alex 4D people out there, and they feel more like me. That so when I get Sherlock, I can just produce more.
Do you have a merch store where you sell your mugs and t-shirts? Because if you don't, you should.
I've been thinking about that recently. I like the idea of a tiny little espresso cup with just my little symbol on it, even without the Alex 4D, because I think that would look like some kind of obscure coffee cup type thing. Maybe. I'm considering it because, I think my design's great.
So, see, the creative thing, soon Alex will be like a coffee maker.
Well, I think if I run away from Apple, they won't come up because obviously their home automation stuff isn't going so well. So maybe I could survive there.
Yeah, and that's what it is to be creative, really, right? See a company like DJI. They're a Chinese company, and they are arguably one of the most innovative companies in the drone area, in the stabilizer area. Who was like the first mobile stabilizer 3-axis gimbal that we saw out there in the wild was the FreeFly movie. And after that, a lot of people copied, right? You literally saw things that were identical, including from DJI. And we can point that for a lot of different equipment or anything. But DJI, what they have been saying since then is, we know that a lot of people are going to copy our stuff. So we already have other stuff that is prepared. And 6 months later, we're putting out another one, and another updated version, and things like that. So you have Ronin, the Ronin XL, the Ronin M, the Ronin S, the Ronin 2, and then you have a bunch of drones. Basically, they are the most popular drone manufacturer in the world. And the thing that they have in mind is like, let's not waste time suing people because they copied us. Let's just make the next one better. It's going to take time for them to reverse engineer that and get to the point that we are. And now, of course, they're huge right now. And as a filmmaker, a lot of people are going to have styles as well. And you can't be worried about putting your stuff out there and saying, oh, people are going to copy my style. Yeah, they will, if it's good. And I don't know. So many things that we can use to compare things there. So
yeah, I mean, I think it's great that Project Rush has come along, and there's more to the Apple method than making something a bit like iMovie / Final Cut Pro Express on Android. There's more to it than that. But who knows who the team is? Who knows how they made up of it? They're not held back by any old code if they're lucky. The question is, will the position of... Think about Adobe in a weird sort of way. They are a bit of a walled garden, like Apple. And in fact, they don't really have their own interchange format. They don't really want tools that can create Premiere timelines that are as good as Premiere. Whereas Apple, Final Cut Pro XML is much more like, it's much closer to be able to create a Final Cut Pro timeline. So there's going to be parts of Adobe that have been freed up to be inspired to do stuff that will be good for the Adobe Marketing Cloud, or maybe wider video literacy, and they'll go for the real consumer video literacy. But who knows? The nature of the wider part of Adobe means they can't let go of their economic model of renting software, as far as I know. So maybe, however good your software is, there's going to be a certain people to say, I don't want to pay for it. But maybe they're going to be better at the cloud stuff than Apple have, because who knows? I think it's just more interesting. The next year is going to be more interesting from that perspective. I'm just looking forward to... It's not going to be Apple's response to this because they don't respond directly. But I'd be interesting to see if their collaboration has got the wider Final Cut Pro universe in mind, as well as the people that have been complaining or asking for it so much over the last few years. There's stuff to look forward to. Let's put it that way.
If say an administrative assistant walked up to you right now and said, "Why should I bother learning about video? This video literacy, I just don't have the time. How could it possibly benefit me in my life or in my career?" What would you say to them to spin them the other direction?
I would say that the people that you're communicating with, whether other members of staff or suppliers or bosses or clients, they already taking in messages created by video. you're already competing with these people and you don't even know it. So, the person who's looking at videos on a Twitter feed or if they have a Slack group that is their business, if somebody can actually make that video alive in their Slack group, because they're already competing with video. That's the answer. Even so, it's unfair. They're competing with video even though they've been told not to look at the video when they're at work. But hey, let's make a video so that they'll go, hey, this is like a Facebook video. Oh, it turns out to be from my boss or somebody representing the customer or a supplier you want to get through to somebody through a video via supply. Say, hey, could you share this on Slack of the people we supply to so that you understand why we're really good at what we do? So my answer is you're competing with it. Now, most of the time you're competing with amateurs, but soon you'll be competing with professionals. So it's time to get professional about it.
Okay, I will follow up on Gabriel's question. I would say that same person has asked you why should they care about this. Now, how they should go about it.
How they should go about it. Well, I would say there isn't really that many of the right infrastructure out there. I think people aren't set up to see that. It's a bit like, let's put it this way. Not many people have gone to venture capitalists or to banks or to their families and said, hey, I'm trying to scrape together $5 or $6 million together in order to make this kind of company, to do this. So what I'm saying is I don't think they're the people to support people. They're not the little either individuals or organizations out there to support people to do this yet. I think it's the kind of thing that maybe Adobe Marketing Cloud would do. Maybe, in other words, they want to create literacy in order to use the Adobe tools. But how to actually say to an individual, I don't know, maybe there's going to be, Felipe's video series coming soon to YouTube. Maybe that.
The way I see this is a huge business opportunity that is there, just waving the hands to everyone and saying there are a lot of people that are in need to learn this, and a lot of them can't pay, don't want to pay, don't know they need, don't know why, don't know how, and someone out there can go and say, here, this is why you need video, here, this is how you get going. There is a business opportunity there. And YouTube is one delivery mechanism. Udemy is another one. There are many ways that you can approach that, or you can reach out to small businesses and say, hey, I have a production and a post-production company. I can make videos for you. But if you see that is too much of an expense, I can come here and train your staff to do those videos yourself.
That's the important thing. The number of a lot of people over the years have, business clients, large and small. They buy a camera and a couple of lights and we just figured it'd be easier to do this in-house. So we bought all this stuff and then we quickly realized that nobody knows how to use it. So that's why we're calling you. So then they're out the money that they're paying me plus the money they invested in that gear. But if there was a step in the middle where somebody was teaching them how to use that stuff, at least, not to be as good as if they hired you, of course, because you're really teaching yourself out of a job, but to teach them how to competently use these tools to tell their story, that would be...
And if there's just one extra skill that employee needs to learn, they're never going to be as good as a dedicated video professional. So while they just need to pass on a message...
And if they are, then that dedicated video professional needs to step up their game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Saying that to all those who are afraid, and I have, of course, my own fear. If all my neighbors start producing killer videos, then I'm not doing something correctly. And it challenges you to do better.
Crazy thing is that I used to make conference presentations from 1993. For many years, used to go around the world or used to make presentations in different places around the world. This is how I got into motion graphics, because I used to create title sequences to conferences. So the idea would be probably 2,000 times people have sent me a presentation saying, hey, could you just make this a little bit better? Could you make this a little bit better? And nearly every single time when I'm about to open that presentation, I think there's going to be a time in which when I open this presentation, I will look at it and go, I don't even know how you did this. How can I make it better? But massive ego time, watch my head get bigger. It's never happened. I'm so lucky that the good thing about presentations, and to some extent when people are a bit more video literate, the more people actually see what value you're adding. And once you get good enough, once you're able to make those slight changes, once you're able to do the things they can't tell quite what you've done, but you've made it better, that'll happen. The trick is the internet way is the more you give away, the more people want to give you the work, because they just go, wow, that person's confident. They're just giving all their secrets away. And also they're showing how actually complicated it all really is. Wow, they're really confident. Maybe we should give them the work.
Yeah,
so
I believe that this would happen, yeah.
Yeah, the confident ones who give stuff away, who do the training, even free training up to a point, they'll just go, and they're available, and we could actually hire them, even though they're actually giving all this stuff away. Fantastic, we'll hire them. That's really cool, So I think the modern way, because the thing is that our clients for the last 10 years have been people who are our age or older. Now, our clients are our age or younger, right? So what does the 22 or 23-year-old person who has a full-time job but now has to produce a video, you have to teach them. You have to teach them how to be a good client. You have to teach them how the process is going to work. And you're going to joke with them is the fact that my joke always used to be when I made videos for people was, and you're going to be working with me on this video 100% of your time. They'll just go, no, I'm going to look at it at the end of the day as my fun thing that I do at the end of the day when I look at the video that's being made. In other words, once you fit into the actual organization and the way that people are and the position they're in, then you're going to be fine. You can give away everything and then just go, okay, now I know how complicated it is. Now I know I've got to pay you to do it.
Yeah, you can teach them the basics, like this is how you set up a camera on a tripod. This is how you pull focus. And you give them the basic tools. But then if you want to ensure that they hire you, just start talking about stuff like chroma subsampling and pixel binning and just kind of overwhelm them with that stuff. And then they'll kind of have their feet in both worlds of independence and also still paying you.
Even if you give them a lot more information, even if you really teach them like how to actually create a story and go about it, I think they still, like I saw this every single day. People would say, great, I can learn that. I absolutely don't have the time for it, so I'll pay you to do that. I've seen that happening with people that knew how to do a proper PowerPoint, but didn't have time to work on the details, so they would just make it rough, and they would send it to the internal agency to go there and create the proper looking PowerPoint. And the same thing for video. They would say, oh, I just shot this on my iPhone, here's the file. Can you just make it look good? Yeah, and those are complicated, right? Vertical, under the nose and stuff. But I'm 100% sure, I've seen that also happening, that people would shoot green screen themselves and they would say, okay, I thought it would look a certain way, but it doesn't look how I expected. So I actually need a professional. And I'm pretty sure, Gabriel, you have a customer that you've been working with him for several weeks, and this is pretty much what happened to him, wasn't it?
Yeah. If we're thinking about the right person, yeah, he tried to bring some stuff in, and since that initial conversation, I've already done 9 full shoots with him, and have a bunch of posts ahead of me. And it's just because he, and I did coach him, and I did say there was, it would be cheaper if you did this on your own, and he asked a couple things, and I was like, well, here's a few lighting tips. If you're going to do this yourself, I don't want you to end up falling on your face, so try these things. But he just didn't have the time or so he ended up calling me, which worked to my advantage, but at least he trusted me because I was honest. I was willing to give him that free information to make his videos better with what his tools were than what he would have been able to do, just plunking a camera on a bookshelf and pointing it at him.
And you don't need to be worried about you losing the job, because you already did that. You already taught someone, you already gave them the tips on how to make it better for what they need, but they still went there and say, no thanks.
Yeah, and he's been watching. He's been there for every shoot, so he would have learned, if he was paying attention, he would have learned all the things I was doing while setting up and while shooting. And so down the line, should he want to do this on his own again, or at least part of it, I would be the first call he would make, would be to find out, I do want to attempt this again. I saw what you were doing. I can't throw that kind of money at it, but what few things can I do to make it better? So it's about establishing a relationship and a trust and a communication.
But I mean, we could also be doing more with our clients. If, say, for example, we know Ben who works at Caterpillar, for example. Imagine if we were the outside video consultancy for a company that's a little bit smaller than Caterpillar, in which they're shooting video all the time as a matter of course. They have in-house people. And yet they don't quite have the setup required to create the full video database, the full workflow, the full tagging required in order to make the video just generally more effective in a large organization. There's going to be a point to which they'll say, wow, it's really good having a video workflow consultancy who is constantly making sure the archive is being gone through, is being maintained, is being backed up, is providing guarantees of backup and archiving, but also making it so that new hashtags appear, or new tags, or new, from a Final Cut Pro point of view, new smart searches appear that actually make all the video edits work better, and which all keeping everybody updated and being a employment / organization / everything consultant to make it easier for internal video departments to even work. There's more opportunity, because at the moment what happens is we make videos and they go into a black hole. One person in the organization knows it, they put it online maybe, or they put it on YouTube. And then what happens is somebody 3 desks away is probably hiring another company to do something kind of similar. All that footage is being shot. The same logos are being shot from the side of the road. Same flags are being, and you just go, all this is being tagged by different people, different places, and different apps. That's just a total waste of time. Can't people actually be working on the differences between things as opposed to spending 80% on the same things between all these different videos? Imagine being involved in making this all actually work more efficiently, to be actually delivering the effect that they want the videos to cause, as opposed to actually just thinking on a video by video basis. I mean, obviously you work on series of videos with people who work in departments, but there's lots of departments in lots of large organizations, charities, governments too. You're not even talking about business. I think there's an opportunity to think of, you could think of videos like money. You could just say, hey, I'm going to be one of the big, there's going to be lots of accountants out there, but there's also going to be lots of business consultancy to do with money or to fund it. Just think of it like how different kinds of consultancy, different kinds of freelancers are involved in how organizations deal with money, or people if it's HR. Just think of it maybe like a function, because that's the way things are going. It's like a function.
Yeah, and that being assisted by AI, machine learning, and character recognition, image recognition. Like, for example, you dump all your pictures into Google Photos or iPhoto, and then suddenly you type cat, and there are all your pictures of your cat there. I think this is something that Final Cut should do. An application like Keyflow Pro should do. And there are many other applications. And then, this is not stealing anyone's job. It still needs to be curated. What you're saying is like someone needs to curate what you have there, right?
I think, to the extent of just using the right tool for the job and discovering new tools that'll help everybody in an organization to say, look, we've got all these tapes from the 90s and we've got some hard drives from 10 years ago. Let's actually point the AI at that stuff and see what we were like 10 years ago. What video would we have made on this subject 10 years ago, and just get the AI to make it. You look at it and go, oh, cool, that guy left and he went to work with another company. This woman has said something really amazing because we have the text and we compared it with somebody who said it today. Let's get all the resource that we've already got and do some useful different things with it, as long as it supports our story, whatever our story is. Or maybe 2 companies join. Imagine if it's like one big architect buys another big architect. They've got big video libraries full of timelines, full of footage. Imagine actually getting that stuff and going, okay, well, look what they said in 1997. We've got this on file. I don't know. It's a bit like, sometimes you go to websites and they have an archive editor and they're able to actually go through all, say, on this day, our website showed this, or our magazine showed that, or our newspaper showed this 50 years ago. We should treat video, could do the archive aspect of video as really the same as text and the same as pictures. It has lots of value. It's all there. It's getting bigger and better all the time. And that what it means is individual consultants saying, I can make this happen for you. We can have a freelancer just prepare it all for 6 months, and after that it generates itself automatically and suggests stories to people who want to make the internal communications work. All the HR people just go, wow, okay, cool, I've got lots of resources now to make HR come alive as opposed to just being the enemy or whatever, however it is in large companies. I don't know. I think, yeah.
Well, this has been quite an amazing conversation. I mean, one thing that I didn't expect to come out of this was a lot of business ideas that even I am considering here right now. Because seriously, I didn't think of approaching my clients because a lot of clients or startups, they're like, oh, we want to make videos, but we don't have budget yet. So they will already not hire you because they don't have the budget. But if you say, I can help you get in there and not spending with me, they're going to spend with you. So, I mean, there are so many crazy things that we talked about here. Any last words, Alex, Gabriel?
Yeah, my last word is, that's the trick, I think. In order for the 1% who want to get into eventually making the killer web series or streaming series, using tools that they love using, and they want other people to benefit from that, you have to sneak this past people. You have to sneak this past Apple, sneak this past Adobe, so that by saying, let's actually help millions of people and not hundreds of people. So that's the way, I think. And I'm looking forward to what they do next.
Yeah. No, I don't really have anything to add to that. No, I also have my own ideas churning now, probably the similar ideas to you, Felipe. By the way, if you need help, if you need somebody to consult you as you figure out how to consult other people, my rates are low.
Friendly rates.
The trick is not, maybe you shouldn't put this podcast out for a year and then make sure everything's in place for us three, and then we'll put it out, just in case it's too good to, no, wait a minute, we're supposed to share everything for free, damn it. Okay. No. I think it's really exciting, and there's so much more helping people. What I like people to be able to do is I like to think of myself as giving people tools so they can change their world by telling stories, and other people say, I'm going to give people education so that they can change their world by telling stories through video. That's just what, there's lots of the feeling to know that your stuff is out there and you're helping people change their world. Now their world could be like a new pitch for their soccer team, or it could be something that helps a charity gets a message across. People are changing their world, and that's what literacy is about. And that's what video should be about.
Amazing. Well, Alex, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us here and having this amazing conversation. And thank you everyone that went through this whole long episode about video literacy. Of course, if you like this, on iTunes or on Spotify. We are on Spotify now as well, of course. On YouTube, subscribe to our channel, our Facebook page, and of course, Alex, where can people find you?
Find out what I do on alex4d.com, or follow me on Twitter, alex4d, or Facebook, facebook.com/alex4d. I think you're maybe seeing a pattern here. Alex4d.
Okay, great. So thanks everyone, and see you in the next one. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.